Hey there, fellow classic comic collectors. As always, I'm Scott Harris King, and today I've got the first part of a new Complete Run Madness, which is where I show off a complete run of comics that I've put together. Because I am a completist, I do like to put together the complete runs. Now, in the past, I've shown some pretty cool complete runs, but it's more mainstream stuff, stuff like, say, Avengers. But today I'm going to show you something that is a little bit harder to put together, something you may not see very often. I'm going to start showing you my complete run of Usagi Yojimbo. So, a little bit of history about Usagi Yojimbo, a little personal history. First of all, I never knew how you're supposed to pronounce it. I was like, is it Usagi or is it Usagi? And it turns out it's neither of those things. I just watched a video a little while ago where the creator, Stan Sakai, of Usagi Yojimbo was asked how you pronounce the character names, and it's not Usagi or Usagi, it's Usagi. So, that's first. But second is, I'm relatively new to this. It was just a few years ago where I got into Usagi Yojimbo and decided to put the full run together. In fact, I put the full run together before I read any of it. It had such a great reputation, I was pretty sure I was going to like it. So I put the whole run together without having read any of it. And then I read it, and it's awesome. It's one of my favorite comics. But I should have been in on it almost right from the beginning, because one of the first comics that I ever bought was Gru #1 from Epic Comics. Cover dated, I think, March 85, so I think it was on the stands in December of 84. One of the very first comics that I got. And Stan Sakai worked on Gru through the whole series, right? And so in the letter columns of Gru, they were constantly talking about Usagi Yojimbo. And I think if I had been a different age, I would have checked it out, and I would have loved it. I think I would have liked it if I had read it at the time, but, when I was reading, it's a bunny rabbit that runs around with swords, at the time I was like 11 or maybe 12, I think probably 11 when I first heard about it. And I think if I had been younger, I would have loved it. If I had been older, I would have loved it. But at that age, it just seemed like kid stuff. So I never tried it. I just never tried it. Otherwise, I would have been able to get a lot of these as they were coming out. But having said that, I've put together the complete run now. One of the last things I got is the first thing I'm going to show you. I just showed this in my top 50 videos, but here it is again. There's never a bad time to show off an Albedo #2. First appearance of Usagi Yojimbo. Very, very hard comic to find. There's only 2,000 copies printed of this. And my copy is a CGC restored 8.5 slight B1. According to the grader's notes, there's 2 tiny dots on the very bottom edge of black ink. And B means amateur, so I'm guessing someone took a black marker and there's bleed through. So it's something that I think could be reversed, but only by chipping away at the bottom. And that would make it more valuable, which I think is one of the most ridiculous things about our hobby, that actually damaging the book more would increase the value. But because the dots are so small, according to the grader's notes, I think even with a couple little chips out at the bottom edge, it'd probably get an unrestored 7.5. Which would definitely be worth more money. But that's not something I'm interested in doing. You can't see where the dots of ink are. And so, it was a lucky thing for me, and unfortunate for my friend Jeff, that it was restored, because he was hoping to get more money for it. But I didn't have more money at the time. I wouldn't have been able to afford it. But because of the restoration, I was able to afford this. This is 3 or 4 years ago now, I think. And it was a book I never thought I'd be able to get. I had put the rest of the run together already. I had everything but this. So this is sort of the crowning, achievement. So, great comic, and, one of the top comics in my collections I just showed. This video is only going to cover the stuff up until the Fantagraphics issue 1, and I'm going to go over why that is, because there's actually quite a few things that came out before that. There's some misconceptions about those issues, but they're very important, and some of them are wildly undervalued. So here's Albedo number 3. Now, this is the back cover. So issue 3 is not worth nearly as much as issue 2. And some people actually think issue 4 should be worth more because it's got, and I'll show in a second, Usagi on the front cover. But I think a lot of people don't realize that if you flip the book over, you get this really awesome Usagi cover. It's the only one that has the logo in Japanese. So I love this book. It's also the first appearance of Tomoe, who is one of the main characters of the series. So I think it's undervalued, even though it has picked up quite a bit recently with issue 2 getting so far out of reach for a lot of people. They're going for 3 and 4 instead for their collections, and I think 3 is really a great book to have. Now, I mentioned there's some other reasons why some people think 4 should be the bigger book. I personally think it's 3, but the main argument besides the front cover thing, let me show you issue 4. Here's issue 4 where he's on the front, is the print run. So there was only 2,000 copies of issue 2 printed, and it sold out, everywhere. And so they went a little overboard. They printed 10,000 copies of issue 3. Now, that's still not very many. But I guess it just didn't do as well because they cut that back, so they only printed 6,000 copies of issue 4. So issue 4 is harder to find. There's definitely, there's barely more than half as many copies of this in existence, just over half. I guess you could say 60% as many copies. So it's much harder to find. It does have Usagi on the front cover, but I don't know. I like the cover for this better, and it does have the first appearance of Tomoe, and it's the second appearance of Usagi instead of the third appearance. Basically, you want to get both of them. I got really lucky on this. I got both of these together in one lot for $99 off of eBay. When I was putting this run together, which again was just like, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, it was much cheaper across the board. These here, I didn't pay more than like $5 for any issue with that's actually Usagi Yojimbo. There's a few of these precursors that I had to pay a little more for, but like I didn't pay anything. So I got the pair of these for $99. They're in really nice shape. The 4 is really nice. It has a slight corner crunch on the bottom spine, and the 3 has a little bit of rubbing too on the bottom. But I mean, they're both higher grade. They're both in the 7.5 to 9 range, so they're beautiful books. So let's take one more look at them. Albedo 3 and 4, the second and third appearances of Usagi Yojimbo. Now here's where we start getting into books that are like significantly undervalued, because when you look at the pricing, it's usually Albedo 2, Albedo 3, Albedo 4, and then it goes to Usagi Yojimbo number 1, Volume 1, number 1 from Fantagraphics. But as I'm about to show you, there's several key issues that came out between Albedo number 4 and that book, and some of them are way undervalued. So here's the 4th appearance of Usagi Yojimbo. It's Critters number 1. Now, I don't know what the print run on this is. I have tried to find out and haven't had any luck. So Albedo, of course, anthropomorphics, so it's, furries. And then this is the same basic idea. They're all anthropomorphic characters. I'm not entirely sure why Stan switched from Albedo, which did continue publication, over to Critters. But starting with this issue, Usagi, as we'll see, was a regular feature in Critters. So here's his 4th appearance. It's also got him right here on the cover. So 3rd front cover appearance. And importantly, this is also the first appearance of Gen. Now, Gen, that's Gen, and I could be wrong. I could be mispronouncing all of these names. Maybe it's Gen. I don't know. But he first appears in here. And he's sort of like Usagi's. He starts off sort of as a rival, but they become friends. And he's one of the major characters for the first 15 years of the series. It's interesting that Stan sort of moved away from a number of these characters for whatever reason in recent years, but I expect they'll eventually come back as he's been introducing other characters instead. But major character, one of the things that's driven the value of some of these appearances is the fact that Usagi Yojimbo is part of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles sort of universe, doing crossovers with them and appearing in the TV show. Well, Jen also has appeared in those as well. So he's a very well-known character. There's lines of action figures from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that have a Jen action figure as part of it. So his first appearance is in here. Fourth appearance of Usagi Yojimbo. Cover appearance right there. First appearance of a major character. This cost me $15. Wildly undervalued. Now Usagi was not in every issue of Critters, but Critters was his main home for a while. So here we have his fifth appearance in Critters number 3 with the full cover appearance. So again, I mean, these are books that they only cost me like $4 or $5. It was a few years ago, but I don't. The Critters, I actually finished putting this run together, I should say, after I had gotten the rest of this stuff. So this was even just 3 years ago where I was getting these for just a few dollars each, and it was not difficult. There's a couple issues of Critters I'll be showing later that did cost me a little bit more, but that number 1 was about 15. These other ones were like $5 each. So considering this is, again, 5th appearance, great cover appearance, really undervalued. Now, as I mentioned, he wasn't in every issue of Critters. So he's in issue 1, then issue 3. Doesn't appear again until issue 6, but there's 2 big books that take place in between. Between issues 3 and 6, we have a very strange place for this to appear, but it's the Doomsday Squad, number 3, which is reprinting John Byrne stories from Charlton from the 70s. But if you see up here in the corner, this issue, Usagi Yojimbo in color. So this is the 6th appearance. Does have a little bit of a cover appearance. This is first appearance in color. Again, very strange place for this to appear. But, there's an ad on the back to get a subscription to Critters. So I guess Fantagraphics was trying to have their it was all Usagi was already a breakout character at this point, obviously. So this is the 6th appearance, and it's not as well known as some of these other ones, but it's important. And then we have a book that I've been talking about for a while. It's appeared in my Dollar Bin Trading Challenge because I did have another copy that I got in the Dollar Bin, and it's incredibly underrated, very important book, and it's Usagi Yojimbo number 1. Now, also from Fantagraphics, but it's not the number 1 that the more casual fans, or you may have seen around. This is what's called the Summer Special. So the Usagi Yojimbo Summer Special, it's the 7th appearance, and in this comic it reprints the stories from Albedo 2, 3, and 4, but then there's also a big new story after that continues this story. So you see this great cover of Usagi with Tomoe, and you can also see that I have a sketch here, remark and signature from Stan Sakai that I got in person. There's a few things about this book that are super important. First of all, it's the first solo issue of Usagi Yojimbo, right? And it's also Usagi Yojimbo number 1. Now, the next Usagi Yojimbo number 1, which starts the ongoing series from Fantagraphics, has for reasons that escape me, has been selling consistently, and I haven't looked at the prices recently, but last I knew it was consistently 3 to 4 times as much as this. That doesn't make any sense. Okay, yes, people say, well, it's the first it's the first issue of the ongoing series, right? Well, fine, but at this point, right now Usagi Yojimbo is on a hiatus, which is a good time for me to be showing the complete run. And when it comes back, it's going to be coming back at Dark Horse, and it's going to be volume 5. It's going to be the 5th time that they've restarted the series in terms of the numbering on the cover, right? So what we have is we've got the Fantagraphics ongoing series that ran for 38 issues. Then it went over to Mirage for 15 issues. Then it went to Dark Horse for 172 issues. Then it went to IDW for 31 issues. And now it's coming back. So when you say, oh, it's the first issue of the ongoing series, I mean, that sort of starts to lose its meaning when you have that many renumberings. Except that Stan hasn't been renumbering the series. On all of his comics, if you look on the inside, even the IDW ones, the most recent ones, it has the ongoing numbering in there. So, like, I don't know what the exact numbers are, but it would say something like IDW number 31, and then it would say number 269 in an ongoing series. So the numbering has been continued on the inside of the book through the whole, all these runs, right? That numbering does not begin with the ongoing number 1. It begins with this. This is officially Usagi Yojimbo number 1. The next, first issue of the ongoing series, that's officially, according to the legacy numbering, Usagi Yojimbo number 2. So anyway, predates it by a full year. First number 1, first solo comic, and the first issue of the ongoing series that has continued this day. This is the key issue. I like the other one fine, and I'll be showing it in the next video, but when it comes to Usagi Yojimbo number 1s, this is it. So, just wanted to say all that. So, that comes out 86, and then there's a number of appearances back in Critters. So, not on the cover here of most of these, but Critters number 6 has an Usagi Yojimbo story, as does number 7. Not on the cover of either of these, but he is on the cover of number 10. Really cool cover, interesting coloring scheme, a lot of blue in this. I think it's supposed to be taking place at night, but a really cool cover. And then he appears in issue 11, not on the cover. Critters number 11. And then in Critters 14. Now this is not his last appearance in Critters, but this is his last sort of regular appearance. Obviously he's not quite in every issue, but he's been a mainstay in the series up to this point. But after Critters 14 is when Usagi Yojimbo Volume 1, Number 1 begins. The ongoing Number 1, or as I like to call it, Number 2. So that came out after this. So after this issue, Usagi's ongoing series begins, which I'll show you next time, and he stops being a regular in Critters. Now he did end up showing up in a couple more issues of Critters, which I have here. So rather than interrupt the other videos, I'm just going to show you the rest of the issues of Critters that he appeared in. These are harder to find, the later issues, and as I'll talk about in a minute, some of them cost me a little bit more. Is in issue 23, this is like a big, oversized, it's like 50 pages, and what causes this to be in demand, in addition to the Usagi Yojimbo appearance, is that, as it says here, For one night only, Teddy Payne and the Blue Bears with their very special guests, Alan Moore and the Sinister Ducks. So this comic originally came with a Flexadisc, a little record that you could play on a record player that had an Alan Moore song that he did with his band. My copy does not have that, but because of that, because the Alan Moore fans are looking for it, stuff like that. So it's a little bit harder to get. The hardest one for me to get was actually this one. This is much later in the run. It's number 38, and it's the last cover of Usagi Yojimbo. So this one was the most difficult of these for me to track down. I mean, I got them all on eBay, so none of them were that difficult. But this one was sort of the most difficult to find. I think it's in the most demand from the Usagi Yojimbo fans because of the cover. And then finally, the last issue of the series was an oversized special, number 50. And it sort of has all the characters that had ever, I guess, appeared in the series, and you have a list of all the big creators that contributed to it. This was the most expensive issue of the run for me. For whatever reason, I don't know if the print run's lower because it's the last issue. It does have the Usagi Yojimbo story, so completists like me are trying to get it. I think I frequently think that last issue low print run stuff is overblown, particularly in a case like this, where I think the series was their planned ending. My guess is they printed more copies of number 50 than the issues before it because it was this big oversized blowout, and were bringing back all of these big creators and stuff. So I don't know. I'm skeptical that it's really that hard to find. But my copy is, it's like a 7, maybe a 7.5, and it cost me like $25. So this was the hardest of these to get. And that's it for the first video. So I just wanted to show those last couple of critters again because I don't want to interrupt once we get into the ongoing series. But that's the early days of Usagi Yojimbo. So as I just showed, it's Albedo 2, 3, and 4. And then we have the Critters 1 and 3, the Doomsday Squad number 3 with a color special, the Usagi Yojimbo Summer Special, the real big first issue, and then these other issues of Critters 6, 7, 10, 11, and 14. And then he started getting his own ongoing series. So next time around, I'm going to show the full Fantagraphics series, all 38 issues of that. So I hope you come back and join me for that. Let me know what you think down below, and thanks very much for watching. I'll see you next time.